Hillcrest over
It's
there.
actually here in our...
Oh, you have it here as well. That's great.
Saturday.
But I really recommend that. The compost worked into our soil will help keep the water, retain that water in there, and put a nice layer on top to lessen evaporation. So it's really a good thing for our area here. So again, please, if anybody needs help with their water conservation, give us a call. But thank you for having me here tonight.
Thank you. Michelle, where is that event on Saturday?
It's at Public Works. There'll be big posters starting about Wednesday.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, encourage everybody to take advantage of that.
Getting the compost is the first part. Who gets this? Did Sean get that? Well, he ran off. All right. Any more public comment?
I didn't put a card out, but I just have a suggestion. I was real happy to read in the Mission Village Voice that the water is drinkable now, and I have a suggestion that maybe you guys can do a photo op, the city manager and the city council drinking water and putting it on the Mission Village Voice and Bonito Link. I was disappointed that there wasn't any notice whatsoever in the water bill. I was looking forward to seeing that the water's drinkable. I think it's a big accomplishment, and you guys should all be proud of it and go for it and do it. Thank you.
Yes. Any other public comment?
Good evening, Council. I'm sorry that the camera wasn't operating when you were told about the Water Awareness Month. That's kind of an important. Is that just one? I must have given you two. Just in case anybody wants to follow along, I'm going to read it. So, and it's already gone out to the city manager and a few other people. On a beautiful day in San Juan Bautista at 1:15 p.m. on Saturday, March 31st, with children running in and out of local shops, collecting Easter eggs from the merchants, an AMR ambulance pulled up in the red zone beside a fire hydrant, partly in the crosswalk, and parked against the flow of traffic on 3rd at Washington Street. Two women in no hurry got out of the ambulance, and my husband, who was sitting outside waiting for me to order a sandwich, asked the driver if there was an emergency. Without answering, both women headed across Washington Street towards Hardeen's. I came out of the sandwich shop on the corner and wrote down the plate 8J73611 and ambulance number 07835. 15 minutes later, as we were eating our sandwich, the two women returned with a takeout bag. I stated to the driver that this did not appear to be an emergency and I would be reporting the incident. Again, no answer from the women. Count the number of vehicle code violations here. Red zone, fire hydrant, crosswalk, facing vehicle against the flow of traffic. Add the fact that this is a busy Saturday with many children possibly more focused on collecting eggs from the merchants than traffic, to the fact that no vehicle coming off of Washington Street could safely see around the ambulance, and these AMR employees have created an extremely unsafe situation for no good reason. Did I mention there was parking available on Washington Street? In addition to sending this email to AMR, my local county supervisor, and the San Juan city manager and mayor, I plan on contacting the Hollister Freelance, the full board of supervisors. I did that, but Freelance didn't post my editorial, so oh well. And the full city council. Just because it can be difficult to immediately find a San Benito County Sheriff's deputy to ticket a multiple violation of this nature is no reason why our local first responders should not follow all safety precautions, especially when the only emergency is lunch. Jolene Cosio, concerned San Juan Bautista resident. And I did notice in the San Jose Mercury, just a week or so ago, there was an article about a pedestrian being killed when an AC transit bus was blocking the view of the crosswalk, and the city was being sued. So it's up to us to make sure that the employees of the agency that we contract with, in that case, those employees are probably, the bus drivers are probably city employees, and these are AMR employees, but we still contract with AMR, so I think the city was following up on that, and AMR sent me an email that they were following up on it, so I hope they do, because not only these ambulance drivers, but I've seen fire trucks do it. You know, they're supposed to be protecting us, not blocking our view of crosswalks when they're not on an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, does anyone want to pull anything off the consent agenda? Anyone in the audience want to pull anything off the consent agenda?
Just a moment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I just wanted to take another quick look.
Yeah.
3B, we'll pull 3B. Now, I'd like to talk about it a little bit.
3D?
B, as in boy.
Anyone from the audience wanted to put, you said you had someone that wanted to?
It's that item.
Pardon?
It's 3B.
Okay.
3B. All right.
Move to approve all but 3B.
Second?
Second.
Comment?
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. The city council asked me to check into the ordinance revising the appointment process for planning commissioners to make sure that it was conforming with the HRB requirements for that HRB board, and I did check it, and it does conform.
So it's okay?
Yes.
All right. So we have a motion and a second on the consent agenda minus 3B. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Okay, 3B.
That's the Code of Ethics policy. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. Of course, I'm for it because I'm the one that presented it, and Chris and I pushed it and such. I just wanted to let everybody know that we're going to be under its umbrella. So it's the Planning Commission, so it's the GG Planning Committee, and the Youth Commission, and any other commissions that we certify. So it's not just us, it kind of blankets the city in that respect. I think it's aspirational, not too many shall nots, but you shall try to do this and try to do that. I think it's a good thing for us to try and live up to. I'm not perfect, I'm not going to say I'm going to hit every single item every day or time period, but that's all. That's all I want to say.
All right. Anyone else?
I disagree with you, I think you will. What? Because I think you comport yourself very professionally, so.
Okay.
I don't think you'll have any trouble hitting all these, John,
Thank you, Chris.
all the time.
Well, we'll see.
Anything else on this?
She waiting for you.
I have a public comment.
Okay.
I congratulate you in doing this ethics policy. I think that it's great, and I think that it's good for all of the committees and commissions that come under the city. There's just one thing that, in looking it over, I think there's one important thing that you might want to consider is that it be in there that when any member of the city council or any other committee is not going to be at a meeting, that they should let the chair or the city council or whatever know that they're not going to be able to be at that meeting. I think that it's important that the public know if a person is not able to be at the meeting or is picking and choosing what meetings they attend. So that's my comment on this ethics. Thank you.
Any other public comment on this? All right.
I move to approve 3B.
Any a second?
I'll second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, 3B is clean. All right, now, 4, Proclamation Day, peak proclamation. proclamation declaring April 2018 as peak day in San Juan Bautista. A lot of, whereas on March 5th, 1846, in defiance of the Mexican government, we're given a proclamation for defying the government? Oh. Captain John Charles Fremont moved his troops to the top of El Nino del Gabrielin Peak and raised the American flag as part of his fortifications. I'm not going to read the rest of it now, therefore it be resolved that the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista hereby declare April 29th as peak day in San Juan Bautista and urges its citizens to participate in the festivities and spirit of a historical event to our local county. Do I need a motion to have this approved? Okay, it's signed. 4B, Treasurer's Report. Is our treasurer here?
Mr. Gregory.
Does not appear to be here right now.
All right, so we're going to, I have not heard that he's coming later, so we're just going to go over this. And anybody have any comment on this? No comment? I know you got a comment on the warrants.
No, she answered it.
Oh, okay.
While we were signing the checks.
Okay. All right. Go on to the next one, monthly construction progress report. Michelle, you want to talk about that, or you just?
I think everything is really clear.
I had no question about it, but.
They moved that
Yeah.
sale sign.
They moved the sign out of the crosswalk. I think what people are really interested in is when are they going to start building and when are they going to start occupying. So they're going to start building this summer, probably earliest they can start building is in August. And the latest would be in October, and that all depends on our water, our next well coming online. But the forecast for that well to come online is as early as August, which means they can start building in August, and they will occupy probably end of the fall sometime.
They can actually start to construct before
Yeah,
they won't give a guarantee they'll have permits.
I thought we were not issuing permits until...
Is that true that we're not issuing building permits until?
We are issuing building permits once we have a good feeling about, a really good, strong feeling about the well. That's where we left it with that.
Okay.
Which is a signed contract with our person that we're dealing with.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, because we don't want to see partially built
No.
if there's some problem.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. On the San Juan Hollister Road, I'm not real clear on, we're going to reimburse them $130,000.
Okay, so this is, first we got to make sure that we can add this to the agenda. So I think we need to end the discussion about, we're clear on the well. So once we have the agreement in line with the party on the next well, the redundant well that allows us to remove that moratorium, then we authorize the building permits to occur. So I do have some news that it's not on the agenda. I don't want to get into a whole lot of detail around it, but we have been working that arrangement very closely, and there's some good news there that it's really good news. So we haven't quite signed it, but it's 99% sure that it's a done deal.
You want to come back to that in your administrative report?
I didn't even mention it there. The only place that it even has any pertinence is really around this building.
Okay.
You know, that's why I wanted to bring it up here, and I knew you guys would probably be interested. But we made a ton of progress with this contract on the well. So it's really great. And so we can we can have another meeting to discuss it if you'd like, or I can send an email, status report
I think an email would be fine.
to everybody.
Just an update. We don't need a special meeting for an update.
So this is a request from staff to have an agenda item that came up to my attention on Wednesday. This is regarding the street, San Juan Hollister Road.
Yes.
So in front of the new development Copperleaf. So Eden Bridge is made a proposal to the city to pay 2/3 of the road plus 2 tables.
Can I stop you for a
Oh,
second?
sure.
So before the city council needs to take action to add this on the agenda. So you need to have a finding that there's a need to take immediate action that came to the attention of staff after the agenda was posted. And then all 4 of you need to vote to add this to the agenda.
All right, thank you.
I'd make a motion that we add the cost reimbursement of San Juan Hollister Road to the agenda.
The second?
I'll second it, but I want to know where it's going to go on the agenda. Are we going to talk about it now or later, or?
What do we?
I was curious,
Sounds like
that's
it's
all.
an action item. Is it an action item?
It's an action item.
So it's later.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
so-
later.
Can we just roll that in with your report?
I'd like to see it under the action item.
Separate, yeah.
You can add it to the agenda under 6.
6E.
Just add another 6. 6F.
6E?
6F?
6E, right, 6E.
Okay.
I make a motion that we, did anybody second it?
Yeah,
John
second, and
I seconded it.
Yeah, it's okay. Now we have motion, second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That passes, all right. That will be item 6E. All right.
No, it can't be D, you already have
E.
No,
E is an Edward.
Yeah, easy and easy, no problem. Okay, now we are, did we finish the monthly construction progress report? I think we did, okay. Then we need a fiscal year 2019 budget calendar, capital plan revision 1. That was what you handed out?
That's right. So we took your recommendations for priorities for the capital plan and deleted some items that you requested be deleted. And so now we have 36 projects, line items, and the priorities are on column 4. What we did is we did a rough order of magnitude on the pricing for these, working with the city engineer, and you can see that the totals for FY19, 20, 21, 22, 23 are there. We have a total of almost 2.3 million that we'd like to spend over the next, or that we've agreed to prioritize over the next 5 years. Because we prioritized a lot of things as priority 1, we're seeing that 1.4 million is sitting in FY19. So we do need to go back as we get the whole budget in place. We need to go back and potentially push some of that to the right.
Okay.
But I won't go through every single line item here, but I did want to follow up with our last workshop on the 5-year capital plan so that you guys could see the prioritization as well as the cost estimates that we came up with.
Any questions?
Just kind of wonder if the public should be aware of what is prioritized. I don't know how we get it out to them.
Yes, I would say definitely yes.
Yes.
As to the best method, perhaps just posting it to the internet.
It's a draft,
Website.
kind of working until we
finalized the budget. This is still work in progress.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think the public should know about the capital plans, because this is a combination of things that the staff has observed, the city engineers observed, the public has mentioned to me your priorities, and a lot of the work that the staff did under Roger. He had done a lot of prioritization and requests or capital planning that never got executed, so that made it to this list. So there's a combination of a lot of inputs to this. So this is available.
Can you go on the website?
Yeah, I think that's the best idea.
Yeah.
We'll put it up on the website
And then it isn't a done deal till we amend the budget.
No, it's not a done deal till July 1st,
Yeah,
till
we
the
should
final
know that-
budget is
that
closed.
That's when we
But
amend
if
the budget.
there's people here that want to see the draft so far, we have several copies here that we can make available for the public. And then you guys can set up appointments with me and discuss and give your inputs as well, because it's still work in progress. So, do we want to give it to them, to the clerk? Just whoever wants to come up and grab a copy.
Yeah, it sounds like the consensus is we want to see this posted.
Yeah, we want people to know when it's gonna come up, that it's gonna come up. I don't want people to look at this and say, we've already committed to this.
Right.
Because we have to adjust the budget, let them know at that time, so if they think some of that is not.
And the budget workshops the public are welcome, they're invited to
Yeah.
come, and those are posted. So it'll clearly say budget workshop, and you can come and give your inputs.
Okay.
Great. Any other comment on this? All right, we move on to city manager's administrative report.
All right, so I can walk, how would you like me to go about this, Mr. Mayor? Would you like me to walk through each line item, maybe summarize? I'll take...
I think if you could just kind of give
Sure.
us an idea what's on it.
So that-
We've got it in front of us.
Right. At a high level, there's around staffing. So we're doing a 2-month assessment of our community planning, our community development planning, building permitting, code enforcement area, and to figure out how much work is necessary in that area. So we've contracted with Ford Leaf for approximately 2 months. It's not binding, but we're doing a test case here to see how much labor we need. So we have Tim Parcel and Todd Kennedy on staff now, and they've been pretty active so far. So, but we're going to make our assessment at the end of the month. We may end up hiring a full-time community development person if it deems that, or we may do part-time combination. At that time, I'll let you guys know what we decide to do, but it's still work in progress. I will say that it's going extremely well. I think that they're integrating well into the team. They're fielding many, many complaints from citizens, particularly around code enforcement, and animal control is a big part of that. The inspection volume is very, very high relative, or I would say the permitting and planning volume is really high because of the developments, getting all those in line right now. It's at a peak, and so they've been extremely busy with that. Moving on to streets. So the Public Works, Fire and Code Enforcement are working together to prioritize the maintenance on the streets. So we still have about $260,000 that we had budgeted for FY18 that we have not spent. We were going to do McCullamy. That project never got kicked off. There was some concern that wasn't the top priority. Part of that budget, I'm going to recommend that we use it for San Juan Hollister Road, which was a very high priority in our capital discussion. And we may push those revenues over to FY19 because at this point it's really difficult to get through the bidding process and to get a major road replacement done. So we're all coming together to to prioritize those. And the reason all have to come together is because the water lines, the sewer lines, the hydrants, and the paving, we can take advantage of replacing all those things at once if we all work together and prioritize together. So that's why we're collaborating there. Public Works did take care of a lot of potholes today. They got a delivery of cold patch, so you'll see a lot of potholes replaced this week. In my opinion, and also the level of comments I'm getting about San Juan Hollister Road and speeding, it is the highest risk road at the moment because the bypass, people are using that as a bypass, and I think Waze is taking them around that way between the 5:30 and 6:30 time frame. I've asked Sheriff Taylor to go ahead and have a sheriff posted there overtime, issuing citations. The Public Works put a 35 mile an hour. Working with Sheriff Taylor, we put 35 mile an hour signs out there. We agreed that was the right speed limit. As part of this recommendation on replacing that street, we do recommend to put 2 tables on either side of the development. I think that'll keep the children safe and the neighborhood safe out there. So that's streets. Sewers are much better this month as opposed to, I would say, the first 3 months of the year. We had major backups and we had to call emergency jetting in. We did do proactive jetting and we haven't had any issues thus far. I check with the businesses frequently. They haven't had any issues. We've only had one slow sewer complaint from a citizen. So that's actually really good news on the sewer. The team is going to continue to do proactive jetting, though. We got the jetter working, and the city is going to use its own equipment to do proactive jetting, so that's great. The highest priority around sewer is really sludge removal. So we have a 20-year procrastinated sludge removal at the wastewater treatment plant. It hasn't been maintained properly for about 20 years. It's in a class C-D state right now, and we're really trying to get it to at least a C+B. That we're having intense meetings twice a week to get this solution in place, working with the local consultants, the John Smith landfill, doing collaboration with Gilroy sewer, wastewater treatment, and we have a really great line of sight on getting that to a passable level. So we're really excited about finally addressing this issue. It will get the smell down, and it'll also get us, it'll just make it look a lot better, and everybody will be a lot more comfortable once we get that taken care of. But it will be an ongoing expense that the city has not done in a while, and so we should expect an operating expense going forward after we correct this. Water, well, I did put it in here. Well 6 agreement actually got closer since I wrote this report. The person that we're negotiating with has assured me that we have a deal. All the terms are in line. It's just a matter of fine tuning, and I'm working extremely close with city attorney to do that. So we're very pleased about that. That'll lift the second moratorium, or the second issue for the city, which will be a huge accomplishment, and allow the building or occupancy to take place once the well comes online. Fire department. I can't say enough about the teamwork going on with the fire department right now, as well as the citizens around fire. It's just fantastic. We're working a plan to get the right size water mains in for the fire hydrants, getting the 4x4 truck online so that we could quickly address fires in the local area. It's definitely on a good path there. Law enforcement, another really positive area, working closely with law enforcement. Level 1 contract is on the agenda to be renewed. Had a fantastic meeting with Level 1. and they made some really great recommendations, and we're just working as a team between the Sheriff's Department and Level 1. The one thing I will say about Level 1, which as we're going into this next contract, I did a lot of analysis around the number of calls over the last 3 years since Level 1's been involved with the city. And pleased to announce that 4% decrease in call volume has occurred, and I attribute that primarily to this additional coverage that we're getting from Level 1. So they deserve a huge recognition and appreciation for I think they're just personally involved with the community. It's the first time we've had that since the San Juan has had a police department here in the town. So that's law enforcement. Code enforcement, AMR abuse of power. Ms. Cosio discussed that. That was addressed by code enforcement very strictly. I'm personally speaking to the head of safety for AMR, and so they assure me that that will not happen again. They've put long-term corrective actions in for that. Nuisance buildings, council member Morana, he requested that I look into nuisance buildings. Those would be La Puertas, Overgrown Landscape, Open Trench, Bass Restaurant for unattached signage, leaning wooden sign, old brewery, plastic webbing around the footing of the building, been there too long. So code enforcement did go out, look at each building, assess the issues. La Puertas is out of compliance for the open trench. It's being addressed. Animal control, feral chicken complaints are down. Public Works has relocated at least 20 chickens, if not more. I've got a lot of positive feedback that the whole chicken population is in control. And I did have to issue some warnings about feeding the feral chickens. That cannot happen. That's just code violation. So I issued written warnings around that. Please do not do that. I was pleasantly, I just felt it was a good thing around. We've had these dogs up in the Lang, Washington area that we've had several complaints about. City under Mr. Tweez had gone up there, issued a request to put a fence and contain those dogs. The citizens completed that request and put a really strong fence in. Code enforcement went out, inspected it, or building inspection and inspected it, and it passed inspection. So the resident was extremely cooperative and had a very strong feeling of wanting to support his neighbors and make them feel as safe as possible. It was really good neighborly action on his part. And capital projects. So telemetry, we got the third quote. Good news is Bracewell is wanting to partner with us on this. They think it's going to add a lot of productivity to their area as well. So we're going into discussions around partnering on the cost on that, which will get a better product, more coverage for the same price for the city's cost. City Hall roof, we need 2 more bids. But we expect the roof to be complete by June 20th, so we don't have to sit under leaky dripping right around there. And then well 5 is fully tied in. The power's on temporary generator power. I know there's been some concerned citizens around thinking that the well wasn't online. It's completely tied in. It's safe. It's gone through the ringer in terms of testing. It is on generator power right now. We plan to put the full control system in once we get the next well online so that they're tied together, as well as the telemetry. But now it's being manually operated as needed. So that's the city.
Thank you.
Michelle,
Yes.
on the pothole thing, I really think they either need to get a warning sign or another guy out there. I came out of the cemetery and on Monterey Street, and he was right around the bend. And me being an old guy, I could have nailed him. But
Okay.
But yeah, it's just a safety thing.
Got it. We do have Public Works here, Tony, so they'll take the action, the pothole safety issues.
Yeah, and Tony, the speed limit's 25 there.
Yeah, that if you're over.
I was doing 10. I came off of Church Street. I don't go over 15. And the second thing, you talked to my superintendent.
Yes,
and
Manuel.
He didn't want to do the way we used to get rid of the sludge.
Oh.
We don't have to read the partner down there.
I want to, but I can't. I'll be thrown in jail if I do that.
Well, that was a really good report, and I think that's good news, and it's one of the best reports I've heard.
Oh,
and thank you for getting rid of the
Mayor.
chickens.
Appreciate that. Thank you. I enjoy this work.
We got any comment from the board? No, sir. From the public on that?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear a lot of this stuff is going on too. But I have to warn you, don't be too positive about some of this stuff because the red shepherd was in my yard yesterday. So.
And who did you call?
They may, huh?
Did you call?
It was so fast, I didn't call anybody. I grabbed my pepper spray and opened the door and headed out, and he went back through the bushes and into his own yard.
We need to hear about it immediately.
Yeah, I usually do. This was a quick one, and I didn't call anybody on this particular occasion, but they will be out again because it's up to the residents to not go outside with their dog and then not pay attention.
Yeah.
Because even with a good fence, that still happens. And it worries me a lot, because one of my neighbor's dogs was killed. And our yard has a retaining wall that prevents my dog from getting out. But the way I got my dog 11 years ago was she jumped in and then couldn't get out. And so that shepherd can come in my yard. And that concerns me a great deal.
Okay, please call the Tim at Code Enforcement.
Yeah, it was during the daytime. I didn't even think of it, and that's really not like me. I usually do call.
Yes, you usually do.
I do a report or something, but it just happens that did just happen. And I know they put up the fence, and that's a good thing, but they still didn't pay no attention.
Okay.
Pepper spray work for chickens?
Yeah.
That I saw Jolene coming out and said,
Yes.
oh, I'm out of here.
Yeah. All right.
It's gonna be something when you know what.
All right, thank you. Next item, report from council members and appointees to regional organizations and committees. John.
So AMDAG is working on their 20-year transportation plan. The other thing they came up with, and I gave a stack of full-color brochures to Michelle to pass out, is they've always had their energy conservation program, which is for school districts and cities. Now they're expanding it to some types of businesses, namely agriculture. So if you own a farm or a ranch or something and you need an energy survey audit, call them up and they'll do it for you for free. The Strategic Planning Committee, we had a budget workshop the same night, so I don't know. I didn't go to that. Can't be two places at once.
There you can.
COG meeting is day after tomorrow.
Yeah. And I did not go to the LAFCO meeting? Nothing?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Strategic Plan Committee. We have a strategic...
No, Shauna told me she was not going to be here tonight. She did tell me at the meeting that I missed, they're working on their framework on how to get everything prioritized and together.
Okay. Hey, I had a request to put the ecology issue up before the cannabis issue.
Sure.
Can we do that? Can we move that? Can we move number 6A ahead of 5?
I move that we move the solid waste situation to position number 4 or 5, whatever. 5.
Second. Okay, I have a motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, passes. Now we're going to go into 6A, which is taken out of order.
6A. Franchise agreement. I'll start this.
Yeah, we need a staff report.
Sure. So so what occurred was, just to summarize, the current franchise agreement is up for renewal. There was an elected council that was assigned to work with the consultants to come up with an evaluation criteria. Out of that evaluation criteria, Green Waste ended up being the #1 ranked company. However, there was also a selection committee made up of the appointed, so city manager and county administrator, and we have selected Recology because we like their rates better. We have faith that they will do just as well as Green Waste in terms of sustainability and diversion. And there was an extreme amount of public support for Recology.
Michelle?
Yes.
Can you go back again? Who are the two groups?
The first one was an evaluation committee, and that was made up of Jim and...
I wasn't on that committee.
It was Tony, actually.
Tony. Actually, maybe the consultants. Who were all the electeds that were on the evaluation committee?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Kevin McCarthy with the Integrated Waste Management Regional Agency. So what Michelle's talking about is the process that we went through. There was an RFP process. We had an ad hoc committee of elected officials. Councilmember Bach was part of that met about a year ago.
Who else besides that?
Your former city manager was on that, and then there were two elected officials, Councilmember Clower and Ray Friend, and then Supervisors Munzer and Vitello. So those were the six that essentially recommended the RFP documents that came before you last August. You all approved the release of the RFP documents. We went through a process of evaluating proposals that were submitted in November. There was an evaluation committee that was comprised of myself, Kathleen Gallagher, Patrick Matthews, who's the solid waste director for the Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority. Yes.
Before you get into all that, right now I just want to know, does our city manager describe two separate committees or groups, right? The first one called an evaluation committee, but you just said evaluation committee. So the one with Bach, Clower, Friend, Munzer, Patel, what's that one called?
Yeah, sorry for any confusion. That was called the ad hoc committee.
The ad hoc committee.
Sorry, that was my fault.
No worries, we'll get it straight.
No, that's right.
And the conclusion of the ad hoc committee was who?
Green Waste.
Okay. And then
Well, they set up the criteria.
No, we set up the RFQ, that's all we did.
Yeah, the ad hoc committee set up a process. They recommended a process that came before you, then we actually went through the formal RFP process, and that's when there was an evaluation committee that was comprised of 4 of us, and then there was a selection committee. The selection committee is what Michelle was part of.
Okay, so who's on the evaluation committee?
Myself, Kathleen Gallagher, who's in the audience this evening, who's the acting integrated waste management manager for the county. Patrick Matthews with the Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority. He's the GM. It's a public agency for the Salinas Valley managing their solid waste programs. And then Louis Valdez from the county. So we went through a process of doing the technical evaluation. We prepared a report. That was shared at a meeting on March 8th, an ad hoc committee that Councilmember Bach was at. And then on March 22nd, all of you were invited to a meeting. All the elected officials in the county were invited to get a briefing on the evaluation committee. There were 9 electeds there.
I was there.
Mayor West was there, Councilmember Bach was there, Councilmember Freeman was there. We had a really good exchange, a lot of questions about sort of what was evaluated, who proposed what. So that was the information that was fed into the selection committee. Again, Michelle, your city manager, who was the assistant city manager at the time, Mr. Tweez was involved. Bill from Hollister and Ray Espinosa from the county. And so they essentially took the technical information in and then evaluated that, and then they formulated the recommendation that's in the staff report.
And the evaluation committee, did they make a recommendation to the selection committee?
We didn't make a recommendation, and we essentially provided a technical report, but we provided a ranking of the proposals based on an evaluation process.
And what ended up on top?
The ranking was Green Waste was first, ecology was a close second, and then RJR, resource recovery, was further back.
Okay. And then the selection committee concluded?
We went with ecology.
Ecology, okay. All right, I got that straight.
Sorry, yeah, it's very confusing.
I just wanted to understand who's on first.
The one key thing is the first committee, the ad hoc committee, they define the rules in the
RFP.
In the RFP. So the ranking that they came up with was based on the rules and weighting that the ad hoc committee decided.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm available to answer any questions as you go along.
Thanks very much.
So, no, well, I'd like to thank you for all the hard work you did, and you did a really good job of making it an objective process of ranking, so you just don't go by the seat of your pants. So I do have some questions on why the other committee, the city managers and Ray Espinosa, chose to override that. I don't think that's a smart move. I mean, why go to all this work when you're just going to choose who you want? I do have quite a bit of experience in this field. Both, I had a 9-year career at Romick Environmental Technologies, and both Recology and Green Waste were my customers, and they're both fine companies. I like them both. But here, I think we need to consider, as well as costs, sustainability and CO2 emissions, and I think running garbage trucks down the marina every day is, you need to consolidate loads and take them in a bigger truck, and that doesn't sound like that's on the agenda. So I would, I have some issues with that.
Yeah, I would point out in the staff recommendation and in the resolution, there are a series of conditions that go with the Recology recommendation. And one of them is to address the carbon footprint. And essentially to say to Recology, are there ways for them to reroute or do consolidate loads and come up with ways to reduce their carbon footprint. There's also conditions in there about enhancing the commercial recycling programs. There's one in there that relates to rates. So there's sort of, I explained this earlier today at the Board of Supervisors, whoever was picked, there would have been a set of conditions. Essentially, hey, how do we make, we got 3 good proposals, but how do we get the very best out of each? And so the recommendation that you have from the selection committee tries to do that with Recology. There are a set of conditions that they felt would make their proposal in total the best. And so I'll let Michelle speak to those details.
Well, we have a hard job ahead of us, because right now the commercial recycle rate is about 6%, and as you know, the state AB, I forget the number.
341.
Thank you. Mandates 50%, so we got a ways to go. Whoever wins. And so I would strongly suggest that you, working with either Recology or Green Waste or RJR, set up a program to make the recycling on the commercial end convenient, because that's one of the ways you get people to buy into recycling, and also make it mandatory, so it happens.
Yeah, if I could add, one other critical background piece is the other 2 members of the Joint Powers Authority have voted on this. Hollister last night voted on the same exact recommendation. They approved it 4-0, so that was to go with Recology with Green Waste as a backup. The county this morning voted 5-0 to recommend Recology, but a little bit of a different wrinkle. They didn't recommend a specific sort of plan B. They basically said if the negotiations fail, come back and then we'll deliberate around who the fallback plan would be. So that's what's occurred so far in the last 24 hours.
Did these set a time limit for failing, or?
It's more about, no matter who you pick, there'll be a list of things to negotiate. Each of the companies took some exceptions to the contract, so there's some legal negotiations. Then there's programmatic negotiations about, maximizing commercial recycling. It's more of a qualitative standard that says, hey, we're going to enter negotiations, we're going to work the list of items, and if we reach an impasse with any, we would come back to you.
Would they have a time limit?
The time limit we're working on is to have a contract back to you by June. That's what.
Okay, so if there's no contract with the first choice by June, then we go to the second.
Yes, and we would, at all possible, and it may require a special meeting or something depending on the calendar, but, our intent is to try to get something settled by May. You will have an item coming to you at your next meeting to do a short-term extension with Recology. No matter who you pick, we have to kind of extend the contract out for a short period of time. So the intent is to extend the Recology contract through October 31st. So that item will be on your, I've got to get the staff report to Michelle, but that would be on your mid-May agenda. And then that buys us the window, but that window is not for negotiating time. It's time to buy new carts and trucks and do put-ed materials, and so there's going to be, no matter who you pick, there's going to be a transition.
Well, that was what my concern is, how long will that transition play out? It's 30 days, 60 day, 90 day, then we say it's not working, we go with the next one?
It's about 60 days.
Pardon?
It's about 60 days, and if we go with what Hollister did, which is what I would recommend, that you have green waste as a backup. The reason we voted this way is because we're putting a lot of teeth into the carbon footprint, getting the commercial rates down on the Recology side, and then doing a major outreach program to educate the public on how to divert so that they can maintain lower rates. They can drive their rates down and help the planet at the same time. A couple of these were real strong. I pushed especially the carbon footprint, because I picked out that weakness as well. So we're going to push hard on this negotiation. If they don't, if we can't reach an agreement, then I would recommend that you do what Hollister did, put green waste as a backup. Or, it's up to you guys to decide how you want to vote on this thing. I get your point about the process. I truly do. But we're trying to not only take this, but we took a lot of public input around Recology, and then people have a very strong relationship with them. They really like that vendor. They're comfortable with them. Changing the vendor, change management around that in a municipality, I think, is a pretty big deal. It's a big change for the public. So you got that coupled with the rate differential, especially for the residents. There was a rate difference. Commercial, as it stands now, would be impacted by going to Recology. We want to work on getting the commercial side minimized in terms of financial impact as well. And then I definitely don't like the way that that their yards are set up, their routes are set up. So that's the one that I thought we would push as well. So that's why we came up with our recommendation.
I just had a general question out of curiosity. What's the total value annually of the contracts for both cities and the county to one of these companies?
I think it's around 11 or 12 million, in that range.
11 to 12 million a year?
Yeah. Am I close? Am I clear? I don't have the numbers exactly. A little more, yeah. When you add, I know the base cost is lower than that, then you add in the fees, and so it's maybe a little 12 or 13 million, but it's somewhere in that range.
It's a sizable contract, or a sizable, that's why everybody's so interested on their side, yeah.
Should have been on Chicago. Any other comment from the board?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm looking at the resolution itself, and at the end of it, it says, now therefore be it resolved, number 1, number 2, number 3. And number 3 is authorize the mayor to sign the resolution. Is that referencing this resolution or the resolution coming out of the selection committee, the contract negotiation? I'm just not entirely clear.
This resolution, to enter into negotiations solely with Recology.
Okay.
That's what this does.
Deb, is that what you're reading?
You may change it right now to this resolution, that way it would be clear, rather than the resolution.
Okay. So do we want to change it to what the city of Hollister did last night, where they have green waste as a backup? Or do we just want to roll with it? Recology, to me, there's no transition. Their garbage trucks are going to roll once a week, and, if it's Recology, hopefully there will be some changes in the recycling program, but as far as you and I go, no, the truck will come on Friday morning and pick it up, and we pay our bill every other month, and that's really what most people think about.
Any other comments before I open it to?
Yeah, I guess I have questions, but I think that there's a danger of second guessing, sometimes where they've spent an awful lot of time and effort on this, and my inclination is to let this go forward.
Well, I think I did second guess them, but I agree that we can't split it off and be by ourselves. So we just,
And I would like to revise that line number 3 to say, authorize the mayor to sign this resolution.
Isn't the only issue whether or not we follow the Hollister City model to have a backup, in their instance, green waste, or the county model, which is to have no backup to deliberate in the event that Recology negotiations break down?
Yeah, that's the issue.
I like the county.
I do too. I don't. I prefer the city, but
I think making it a free-for-all gets us the best price.
Let's open this to the public and see what they have to say. Do we have any cards? Okay, wait.
All of these companies, with President Trump's installing tariffs, these companies are all concerned about what they're going to do with their plastic and aluminum, because I believe the number was like 60% of the recycles out of the United States go to China, and that could become a problem. But I don't know what we do with these guys if they can't meet these recycle goals.
So it already is a problem. I have several customers right now, a recycling company in Oakland, California, one in San Jose next to the football field for the Spartans or whatever they call themselves. And they used to send all their bales of mixed, they call it mixed waste, which was plastic and cardboard. It all goes to China. Now it's piling up in warehouses already. So the state, but that's a ball game much higher level than what we can influence.
Thank you.
We have to go with the mandate, and they have to go with the mandate, and it might pile up until the state figures out, well, we need to encourage recycling companies to recycle it right here, or maybe in Nevada or something a little bit closer,
No, I just thought I'd interject.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Deal with Mr. Trump. We open this to the public comment. Do we have any cards?
Robert Rodriguez.
Mr. Mayor, I'd suggest we hold to the 3 minutes
Yeah, this could be
aggressively.
Okay. Robert,
I would ask that you
2 minutes. Good evening, people, Mayor, everyone here. Anyway, I do respect the recommendations the consultants have made. They work very hard, but they also want the recommendations all 3 companies are capable of doing the job, which is Recology, Green Waste, and RDR. And of course, I'm RDR. And I know that Mr. Freeman was talking about carbon footprint. Well, we have facilities that is fully permitted by the state, and we did a lot of upgrades. So what I would like to do or say, if Recology can come to an agreement, I would like to have the opportunity to negotiate, because we can cut down our carbon footprint. We're here locally. We are gonna, regardless if we get the garbage out, we're gonna employ more people to do all the recycling, up to 20 people's sorters in our facilities now. Once we get everything up and going. So we are capable, and we do understand the market. China cut us off, so that is the biggest consumer. So we're having a lot of problems getting stuff from the recycling. And I know what the state is working on changing the mandates. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments?
Bill Cochi?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Phil Couchet, I'm the Joint Manager of Ecology in San Diego County. I'll make my comments brief.
Please.
I've spoken before about the hardworking employees, employee owners of Ecology. They come to work, they do a good job servicing your city, and they go home to their families. Many of them who live in Hollister, San Diego County, and San Juan Bautista. The kids go to school here, they participate in the community and nonprofit groups, and they spend their hard-earned dollars in your stores and restaurants. The last few months have been quite anxious for these employees of Ecology, waiting to hear the fate of their jobs. We are pleased to see that the recommendation of the Selection Committee recommended Ecology. When this process started nearly 18 months ago, what we heard was you went out to an RFP to make sure you got a good deal at a fair price. Ecology provided the lowest cost proposal, and we continue to provide good service. We look forward to implementing many of the practices outlined in the agreement to meet those diversion goals. Yes, there needs to be work done on diversion, specifically in the commercial sector. The contract specifically sets out requirements for those goals, and we can certainly meet those goals. You can count on us to continue to provide good customer service, and you can count on us to continue to remain committed to your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more public comment?
Emily Finn?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Emily Finn. I'm with Green Waste Recovery. Thanks for having us here tonight. You guys vetted the discussion actually more than the city of Hollister and the county of San Benito, so I appreciate the diligence that you guys have. You've asked some really good questions. As was noted, there was an ad hoc committee that set up the parameters. There was an evaluation committee who did the ranking, and then there was the recommendation committee, of course. And Green Waste did rank highest from the evaluation perspective. We would love the opportunity to negotiate concurrently, whether it's 2 companies, 3 companies. To your point, if you want the best price, the best thing to do is negotiate. The challenge and the downside to that is that the bids have already been opened, of course, so the information is available to all 3 parties. But you have fairly tight timelines, and Green Waste would love the opportunity to be able to serve San Juan Bautista. We did many years ago, and we'd like to be back here and doing it again. I did want to answer a couple of the questions that came up about the recycling market. For example, we own and operate one of the largest MRFs in the area, and to date we are one of the only recycling companies. We are not stockpiling any material, we are not landfilling any recyclable materials, and we continue to have markets. And that's because we really focus on the markets and keep our materials clean.
What's a MRF?
Material recycling facility.
Hey, did I ask you?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I know you're an expert in the field, John, you already said
Material recovery facility. It's where we take all of the recyclable materials that are coming out of the container, separate them all out, bale them, and then sell them as commodities.
Is that done by hand, right?
Machines and hand, quality control as well.
Okay. Thank you, John.
What we've proposed is we've proposed our facility to be local, so all of the taxes would come back and stay in San Benito County. And to the carbon footprint, we had the smallest carbon footprint, and one of those reasons is that we would be transferring material here locally and then sending that material to San Jose to our MRF, our material recovery facility. But all of these commodities go through Oakland, so if you're sending them down to Marina, you're sending them south just to turn them around and head them north again. And both Recology and RJR, Resource Recovery, are going to be utilizing a MRF down at the marina facility. So the carbon footprint of green waste operation is inherently smaller. And we did not have the lowest residential rates, but we had residential and commercial rates where one entity was not subsidizing the other entity, and that's another reason that we ranked so high on the evaluation committee side. Because the ad hoc committee set the criteria, what I would encourage you tonight is if you don't do concurrent negotiations, to set some criteria for what determines successful negotiations. Because right now, there really is no criteria. There are a couple of things that carbon footprint, looking at lowering the commercial rates, looking at a better and more comprehensive diversion plan, which are fairly vague and subjective. So what I would strongly encourage is setting some parameters for that, and as well as the mayor set a tight timeline to get that done so that you guys have ample opportunity if those negotiations aren't successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? No comments, I'm going to close the public hearing. Bring it back to the board. Do we have anything? I think that we should, these things just go on forever. And as we noticed, just negotiating over a will. But I think that we should have a definite time where we stop with ecology and go to the next two, and I would do both of them like the county's doing. That would be my suggestion, but...
Hollister's doing.
No, Hollister's just saying that they're going to only negotiate with green waste. The county's saying they're going to renegotiate with everybody.
No, actually, I don't think that's what he said. He said they're both approved the exclusive negotiation. If they fail, then the county goes to an open bid or
They'll come back and discuss it.
Rather than what I thought Hollister saying will go to green waste.
Yeah, that's what I thought I said, but that's not what I said. God darn.
That's what you meant.
That's what I meant to say.
There we go.
Yeah.
Should we add that into this resolution?
I don't think so.
We would go to, do we negotiate with the other two?
No, do what Hollister did. If ecology fails, then you negotiate with green waste.
No, I think that...
If ecology fails, we negotiate with everyone.
Okay. I agree.
Yeah. But we have a date, so we need to know when is it considered a failure?
I'd say June 15th.
I'd say 60 days, which is probably pretty close to June 15th.
Did the committee have anything to say on that, Michelle?
I think we were targeting end of June, right?
Yeah, I think the goal is probably closer to 45 days. If we don't, you need meetings and you have to have attorneys and review things, and to think we're going to get it done in 30 days is probably a stretch. But I would think within 45 days we're going to have a very good, by the end of May, we're going to know if we're on the right track.
And as long as there's a date, an absolute date, we start the other way.
So you say June 1? I said June 15, you want June 1? I think we need...
Well, you guys pick it.
Yeah,
I'm interested in recommendation.
Oh, it's
yeah,
recommendation.
I would say that we have a natural deadline. And so the natural deadline is if we extend the contract out to October 31st, all of the companies have basically said they can get the core part of their transition plan done in 4 months, which means they have to be starting by July 1. And so the clock is already ticking. And so that's what Michelle, myself, Bill Ibra, and Ray Espinoza, that's what we're facing. We need to work through these negotiations. If you do select Recology, they're aware of the same timeline. There will be no foot dragging. I would say if you did set a deadline, it just would, if we weren't there, it would automatically force us to come back and give you an update before maybe we knew if we were settled or not. But I can absolutely tell you if we're getting towards the end of May and we don't have consensus, we're going to be back because we've got to get...
So therefore, I think there's advantages to setting a deadline, and it sounds like from you, no downside. So June 1st, June 15th, you have a preference for that?
I'd say June 15th would be safer.
60 days.
Yeah.
And then
Johnson?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can we make changes?
I would suggest in item number 1, after now therefore be it resolved, there's like those 1, 2, and 3. The last paragraph of number 1, it says if the above items are not successfully negotiated between the parties, and we can just say by June 15th, between the parties by June 15th, 2018, then the selection committee would then recommend terminating negotiations with Recology and entering into exclusive negotiations with GWR. That's how it reads today.
Yeah, let's make it
With terminating negotiations with Recology, period.
yeah.
Okay, striking the rest of that. And I would ask again that number 3 say authorize the mayor to sign this resolution.
You forgot the final motion is also.
I move that we pass the resolution of the city of San Juan Bautista approving a recommendation to enter into exclusive negotiations with Recology, San Benito County for a new franchise agreement for collection of recyclables, organics, and solid waste contingent upon specific conditions with the 3 changes described. Do you have those?
June 15th, and then you've ended...
2018.
And then you ended that sentence at Recology and then struck out, and entering into exclusive negotiations with GWR.
Correct.
And then the last one is on the last page, number 3, authorize the mayor to sign this resolution.
Correct.
So those are the 3 changes.
Yep. Yes.
And that's the motion?
It is the motion.
We have a second? We got a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes 5-0.
Michelle?
Yes.
One last question. Who does these negotiations? The selection committee?
Yes.
So one thing, since we're on this agenda, say public, one thing I would hope for Recology is that they hold the residential rates to what they are now and lower the commercial rates.
Isn't that the way it...
What they call out that is the requirement.
Yeah.
It's in the resolution.
Okay, just highlight that, okay.
All right. Chair.
That's the plan.
Now we're going to go back to marijuana.
That's not talking about
Gotta find stuff too, so they think of my lungs.
I mainly wanted to during my report out, so thank you.
All right, now we're on item 5. Public hearing, consider an ordinance adding chapter Cannabis Facility Regulation Permit to Title 5, Public Health, Safety, and Welfare of the San Benito Municipal Code. This is the first reading.
I'm gonna have Victor.
My honorable mayor, members of the council, and Debbie for the occasion, I'll launch it. We met a few weeks ago to discuss a few items regarding the cannabis regulatory ordinance. Those items have been updated on your ordinance, which included, off the top of my head, my apologies, included the setback issue, retail permits, zoning, and a few other things that I will pull up here in just a second. All of those have been updated on your ordinance, so the ordinance that you're looking at is the most updated ordinance. There is one component of the ordinance that we have, I don't think we've discussed in complete detail, but I think I know where the ad hoc committee was going, and I apologize, I think I may have missed that when we were reviewing those key items a few weeks ago. But that included, bear with me for 1 second. And that included making this ordinance contingent upon a sales tax, or excuse me, a cannabis tax. It would be a few different taxes, and obviously we would work with your city attorney to put that together, but it would likely be a square footage tax, gross receipts tax, and a point of sales tax. I did receive, Councilmember.
All of which needs to go on the ballot, correct?
Correct.
Yes. So therefore, when you say condition upon the successful passage of that which will be on the ballot, if that doesn't pass, this whole thing goes down the tubes.
You are correct.
Right.
So you
I
do
think
have...
that's a key part for the community and for the council.
Yeah.
the taxes don't pass, no cannabis. The ban that our city attorney put in place stays in effect, and there's no cannabis in San Juan Bautista.
Very similar to what the county is facing right now with Measure C. They have that on the June ballot. If it passes, they took the ordinance after, they're likely going to be taking the ordinance after. I don't see them taking it up in May. That may be the case, but they likely will be watching the results of Measure C in June, and then likely bringing that ordinance, if John Gruden, our RMA director, is prepared, it would come for them in June. Here, we're looking at a completed ordinance with full council direction, 100% complete. We would just need to add that language under your city attorney's recommended area of 290 in the ordinance. And I would look at her for some direction on the legal limbo. I'm not an attorney, though I could play one on TV. But I would look to Deborah for Deborah for direction on the exact language of how that would be inserted. If I'm not mistaken, Deb, you could insert that, do a first reading, and then when we bring it back for a second reading, make sure that we have that language inserted into the ordinance. That is, I believe, the recommendation from the ad hoc committee is to make it contingent upon a tax passing.
That was my feeling.
Should we say a word on that to the community? Our thought behind that is that then the cannabis ordinance, well, let me start that over. This tax thing that would go on the ballot, and if you think about it, would really serve as a referendum on cannabis in San Juan Bautista. Do we want it or not? Do we want it or not, which we thought was appropriate, since it's such a kind of big decision for a community, the community should make it, as opposed to 2 people or 5 people selecting the community members. So that will be the voters' chance to say whether or not they want cannabis in the community. If they do, they vote yes for the taxes. If they don't, they vote no. Right, Chris?
Absolutely. Are you guys comfortable with that? Do you understand the change we're describing?
I'm comfortable with that thought. I had another, it's entirely different subject, but it's cannabis, so it's not a different subject. Maybe it goes in the building code or something, but I was hoping that we'd have a requirement that if they were to build a enclosed greenhouse or something like that, or a warehouse, I've read where they suck a lot of power, and we just talked about for 20 minutes carbon footprint, and they have a rather heavy carbon footprint. So I was hoping that we could get a solar panel requirement or renewable power requirement or something like that to ease that carbon footprint.
Excuse me.
We're going to have a public comment on this.
On that point, just really quick, Councilmember Freeman, there is I need to look at the specific language in it, but there is a requirement from the state on renewables. I just don't know if it's the type 1As or type 1As and type 1Bs, which are both mixed light and fully enclosed. I would have to look at that, but there is a renewable energy requirement.
We can add that to our either or both of our building code and the rules and regulations as well. So it wouldn't reside within this portion of the...
Okay, I didn't know where it fit.
Right, I think it would be...
That's a good point.
It absolutely is, and it's one that we discussed. It's just, it would live elsewhere. To your point, it would be in the building code. So there's sort of a batch of stuff we have to update in the building code for this to go into effect, as well as the rules and regulations that we follow on. And that's where we get down to more of the nitty-gritty requirements.
Any other public comment? Close the public hearing. Back to the board.
I think you had comment.
Didn't I? That's right. I'm going to open the public comment.
I'm not going to take that personally. I think that you just want to come up here again for another 3 minutes. I mean, I'm just gonna, I guess I'm gonna talk about what's obvious to me is that there's less
code enforcement, there's less sustainability issues when you're looking at outdoor license types, because it doesn't take an exorbitant amount of power or energy to be able to put a seed in the ground and grow it with water under sunlight, which, you know, like, we're an agriculture community. This is what we do, this is what we know plants. Like, I'm going to keep coming back to that issue. I understand the reason why the policy is driving towards indoor only, but I share Councilmember Freeman's concerns about the impact on our grid. We want to go more towards green. We don't want to have more energy second industry, you know? If you're, and I'm also really proud of the work that our ad hoc committee has done. We had our first agenda item this month last year. It's been literally 12 months to come to this point, so I think that it's been absolutely fantastic, and that you surpassed other counties in the area, you know? Took Hollister and Santa Cruz County years to get to where you came, just in 12 months. So I just want to acknowledge that and appreciate you for that, and I'm going to continue to be supportive of whatever you decide going forward. I'm supportive of having taxes over a development agreement. I think also that you need to take into consideration people already voted. To put, you know what I mean, like, you want to put it back on the community to ask them again, they already had a chance to vote for Prop 64. You already have those numbers of what that looked like. So, sounds like you already have the proof that community does support this issue, so, you know, I'm for the taxes. I'm willing to opt in to be a tax-paying business owner if you allow me to do so. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I don't have any other complaints other than let us have the opportunity during our public comments, because it's really important that it makes us feel like we're part of the process, that you care about our opinion, and there's transparency and all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you. Well, I agree with you. I think our subcommittee did a very good job on this.
Well, I think now's as good a time as any that the subcommittee wouldn't do anything without Victor Gomez. He did a wonderful job, and hats off to him. You know, he was honest in every respect, especially the timeliness. He's pushed us along.
We just answered questions mostly.
I guess I didn't. Was there any other public comment? All right, now we're going to close the public hearing.
Okay. Victor has suggested adding a short piece of text to this. So it doesn't sound like we can have a first reading without that. Conceivably, could we take a short recess? You guys draft a short paragraph that would accomplish what we need to accomplish, that can then be inserted tonight, so that we can get this moving?
So that was a month. Or first address the underlying premise, which is if there is a short addition, does that mean that we can't go forward tonight?
Yeah. Is that what we have?
So typically, you should have your ordinance pretty much hammered out so that the public knows what you've passed on the first reading. So, right, you can, you know, I understand what you want me to add, and I'd prefer to go look at how other jurisdictions did it, just to make sure that we're not doing something new and it's going to knock out this ordinance. So I would prefer to, you know, have a chance, but I think I understand if you just say placeholder to do this, I can craft the exact language. I think that's enough for you to go forward on the first reading.
You think that would constitute a first reading?
And what we can do instead, I mean, we can actually put it on for a third month in a row, just in case this, you know, this reading, if somebody said, didn't have enough information, that wasn't good enough, then we can go ahead and just put it on the agenda for next month and the next month after that, just in case.
Why don't we do that? Oh, I'm sorry.
As I understood the earlier part of this conversation, the first thing we have to do is pass the tax.
No, what we're suggesting is that
the point being that if the tax measure fails, you might as well shred the whole list of them. You know? So why go through these gyrations, or do you want to do that and have it in place And then if the tax passes?
We want to be ready to hit the road.
Okay.
That, I think, certainly my expectation is that it's going to pass. I think, has it failed anywhere, Victor?
There have been cannabis-related measures that have failed, but they have to do with regulation, not taxation. So taxation, there haven't been any issues. Everybody enjoys taxing other people.
The TOT tax failed.
Oh, that's a good point. But I haven't seen it.
If that's taxing all of us, that's the difference.
No, that's taxing out of town people, TOT tax.
Oh, TOT, sorry, right.
Would you feel better, we have the time, whether we take it off this month and do the next month and the following month?
No, I'm sorry to chime in here, Mr. Mayor. Just to let you know, my contract with the city terminates at the end of May. I'm hoping to bring back to you in May your rules and regs and your cost recovery model. I should have that prepared for you for May. Doesn't mean you're going to adopt it. Hopefully that'll be the case, but the ad hoc committee will vet the rules and regs one last time and meet and bring back a final draft of those. But I did want to let you know that, not that it makes really any difference because that would be your second reading later anyway, but I do want to add, and Dick, please correct me if I'm mistaken, the only thing that would really trigger a second reading from a change of what the first reading to second reading would be what some would consider a largely substantive change, thank you, and that would trigger it. So I guess it depends on how you interpret the contingency, the tax contingency, if that's a huge change. Some could argue it, and some, but I'm certainly, as your consultant, I would agree that you do have time. You do have time, right? Okay. There's no real urgency because this ordinance is still not going to go into effect until this tax passes. To Chris's point, I think you also do want to be prepared, though, when the tax passes, that likely around December 1st or maybe January 1st, you can be ready to accept applications for review. So hopefully that helps a bit.
The other thing I was going to say is there's a short time period. It seems like we have a long time to get it on the ballot, but if you go to the county clerk and where they need their information and everything, it's really, you probably know better the time period, but isn't it August that you have to, so it has to be...
Or July, August.
Okay, it's July, so it's a very short time period when you only meet once a month to get the language approved for the ballot, so it'd be better maybe to pass it tonight and, do an extra reading if we're worried about it, but to get the tax measure going forward.
Okay.
And I think that if there's any danger of making a substantive change between now and the next time, that's a whole other story. But the only issue is this taxation contingency, which we've addressed very clearly tonight. It's on the tape. It's not going to be a secret to anyone. The only thing that needs to happen now is it needs to be wordsmithed. The city attorney's going to do that. When it shows up, it'll be of no surprise to anyone. So I think we tee it up and get this thing done tonight. That would be my...
Deborah, are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
All right. All right. Now we need a motion in a second.
I prefer if it was someone other than the ad hoc committee.
I move we approve ordinance number 2018-04.
Doesn't get a number till the second reading.
Oh, okay. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista adding chapter Cannabis Facilities Regulatory Permit to Title V Public Health, Safety, and Welfare of the San Juan Bautista Municipal Code.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next item, we're going back to...
Victor, thanks again. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Victor. We're going back to action item number 6B. Proposal to charge for parking at Kathleen Manning's lot. City...
So, council members, honorable mayor, we have one of the highest volume weekends coming up that we've seen in probably the last 20 years since the rodeo. So we have a Indian powwow festival, plus a rib cook-off, plus it's Cinco de Mayo, plus Living History Month at the state park. I anticipate we are going to have at least 10,000 people in town on the weekend of May 5th. So I have been working with local residents that have open lots to enter into some sort of agreement to use their lots as overfill parking. So what this outlines, and city attorney drafted this, and it was approved by verbally by Kathleen, that the city clean up the lots. We do pay for parking there, and we split the proceeds with Miss Manning, and that our half of the proceeds go to our youth council. So that's really what this is, and it's her two lots, one across from Valero, one in between Valero and her other building there behind it. But it's kind of a win-win. The properties get cleaned up. We get the youth council some revenue, and she gets some revenue from the property.
Any questions from the council?
So I just want to clarify that the action tonight, you need to authorize the city manager to sign the agreement.
Okay.
And who's going to run the parking lot?
City staff. Hopefully youth council as well will help.
Why don't you get the Rotary doing it? Spend money with them.
Rotary ain't doing it.
Don't hold your breath.
All right.
Any other comments? Public hearing, open a public hearing on this? Any public comment? Any? No public comment? Close the public hearing? I made a motion to...
I'll make a motion that we empower the city manager to sign the agreement with Ms. Manning.
Second, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. 5-0.
Hey, hold on, did you get anywhere with Susan on using the bonfire, or the city being able to use the bonfire lot once in a while? Because that's the best lot in town.
So what happened is they decided they didn't want the youth center. So or the community center, so they backed out of that deal, and they just gave up all negotiations on the fire lot, the bonfire lot.
During your discussions with the diocese, did you ever get any sense of their willingness to use the bonfire lot? Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I've been talking about parking, so I've been working with the diocese. They do plan to use that for parking this particular weekend, plus Casa Maria. Also working with the state park. There, because of the living history, we can't do it Saturday, but we are trying to get it for Sunday and allow the church goers to park for free.
So you're looking at every lot?
Oh, yeah. And then we also started, in our Lang Park, we're getting that disced, and I mean, if we have to, we may have to go that direction as well. And then the last one is the lot on the end of the street here, Ted and Mary's. I'm starting a negotiation with them so that we can at least eat our ribs and not have to sit on the curb on picnic tables.
Goodness.
Yeah. Well, Rotary's going to have a beer garden there, so we can come sit in there.
Where?
Rotary.
Where's their beer garden?
Up on 3rd Street.
Oh. And then Pat Garrett is starting to get soft on his lot too. Yeah, he didn't completely shut me down on using his lot today.
Good. We need a motion on this.
We did it?
Yeah.
We had a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
We did it. We did it already. You banged the gavel.
That's right.
Passed it already.
All right, now we need permission to surplus street sweeper. Michelle?
Very straightforward. The details, it's an 84 Timco. We have a very, very seasoned mechanic, Paul here, and he has worked to try to get that sweeper going. The cost of getting it going would be in the $40,000 range, and then the cost to maintain it would be, there's 4 hours of service every time you do a sweeping. It's really cost prohibitive to run these sweepers as a municipality. That's why most people contract this stuff out. That's why Hollister went that direction. So I just would like to get more real estate in the public works yard, get rid of this, get some money out of it as much as we can, and call it a day.
What can you sell that thing for? That's all he's worth anyway.
Paul, do you want to speak about how much you want? We can come to the desk and ask, give them a feel for how much we potentially could get for the sweeper?
Okay, with scrap steel being down, I think it'd probably be better if we tried to advertise it and sell it to either maybe a sweeper company or private. Maybe put it on Craigslist or as some type of advertising, let it go. Just to clear the spot, we need it at the yard, you know. I think been driving by, we are running limited space there. Okay. So
city attorney said, by code, we have to try to auction it. What if we can't get it auctioned, then we can salvage it or recycle?
I think your code is a little outdated where it says send it to an auction house, because I don't think you could do that. But I think maybe we have to approximate in today's technology what an auction house would be. So to me, that means somewhere that at least you get a couple of bids on it and you take the highest bid.
So how much do you think we can get for it? That was a question from Councilman.
scrap is maybe about $400 or $500 max. And if we did sell it on the open market or auction, possibility of $1,500, maybe $2,000 if we're lucky.
If you can get $2,000 for that, I got some trucks to use.
I did get it running, so it is running and driving, and it is not asphyxiating, so.
Okay.
Thank you. Paul.
Okay. Any other comment from the board on that?
No. Well, we have the bonfire.
Yeah. Sorry. We're going to open this for public hearing. If anybody has any comment on this, I don't see anybody.
Anybody want to buy it?
Sold. You're lucky you didn't stand up.
Would this be an appropriate time to talk about the contract street sweeping?
No, I don't think so.
I need a motion on this.
I make a motion that we allow the city manager to do whatever she needs to do to surplus this thing per the code and the comments of the city manager, city attorney.
Second. Second, we have motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, it's done.
This agreement, right? This is a
Discussion items. John, this is yours.
No, we got D first, and then we got E.
Oh, E, Jesus, yeah.
D and E.
D and D.
All right. Number D, accept security contract with Level 1 Security.
Okay, so Honorable Mayor, council members, this is pertaining to request to ask for a revised contract for Level 1 Security. I did an analysis, as I spoke of in the city manager report, the positive impact that we've seen from having this security company service San Juan. Has been a 4% decrease of call volume. Physical review, if we had the same coverage from the sheriff's department, it would cost, it would double our current cost. And our current cost for sheriffs, $150K for 42 hours a week. A Level 1 contract is approximately $90K for how many hours a week you got? No, I got it right here. It's 9 hours a day, 7 days a week. So 57 hours for $90K. So I'm recommending that we not only continue the contract, but I wanted to pose to the council that during the high-volume activity months, like during summer months, spring break, that you authorize me to allow an extra officer to be on duty at night, or in flexible hours, an additional 6 hours, 3 days a week, as needed during peak times. And this would be, for instance, say we wanted to have a person here sitting next to a clerk, as a command presence, or if we wanted additional coverage for festivals, or just that night we want a second shift for the very high peak hours during the night. And if we did that, that would increase, so it would only be for this summer, and that would increase it up to $99K. And it would be at a discounted hourly rate. It would go down to $25 an hour from $26.25, and $4.25 vehicle hour. So we've got level 1 here to answer questions. Deb and I are in the process of fine-tuning the contract so that the insurance is comfortable with the coverage. There is some discussion with the insurance company right now that I would like these guys to be able to defend themselves if they come across any major issues, or if they need to defend somebody that's in dire straits. I would like them to be able to carry pepper spray, potentially a baton, and I think that's as far as we're going to go. But we're talking to the insurance company on how much they can carry defensive. But their primary mission is to check doors, and then suspicious behavior, and they call 911 when they do that. They do not confront or take action with people. They notice a behavior and they call 911. So, questions?
Who has the policy? Is the level 1 policy in the city's an additional insured on the level 1 policy, or is it the other way around? City's policy and we insure?
So they carry a policy, and I believe that our Parsec representative has said that we can go down to 1 million, didn't he? Mm-hmm. So the agreement's going to look pretty much not the service agreement you have here, but it's going to be the one that it's going to look pretty much like what it looked like last time.
Yeah.
And we're going to amend the insurance, I think, to be, they are going to carry I think a $1 million policy, and then it's also covered, but Parsec, if something happens, they have to defend the city as well. So it's really like a doubly insured event.
So the city of San Juan does an additional named insured on the level 1 policy, right?
I don't believe that we're getting the additional insured certificate. I think Ken is working with them right now, so he gets a certificate of insurance that he's comfortable with. But I don't believe they're asking for that we be additional insured.
No, we're not named on there, but however, we are setting the bar for all their insurance. We are...
Limits.
Correct. We're requesting an extra $1 million.
I think there's
Oh.
You guys are named on our additional insured.
Oh, we are specifically named out?
That the special umbrella that we originally, well, first of all, JT Tomlinson, level 1 private security, and hello everybody, city council members. You guys are additionally insured. But let me specify, if you guys don't mind, Michelle, if I can go into this.
Of course, yeah.
Please. When we first started, Roger, ProSac, how do you say it again?
Parsec, it's an acronym, but...
Yeah, sorry about that. They wanted us to carry extra insurance because they had, I'm going to say, the illusion of us transporting, arresting, and stuff like that. And Roger fought for that, and to let them know that we weren't doing that. And from our conversation the other day with Michelle and with the gentleman that represented them, I think they were still under the assumption that we're still doing that. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yeah.
And so I'm very pleased to hear that, because Roger, when we signed the regular contract, was supposed to come back and reimburse us for 50 to almost 100% of the extra cost for the umbrella. insurance that we had to have to continue service. That never happened. So when we were on the phone the other day, the insurance guy kind of mentioned that, it shouldn't be all about San Juan paying the whole thing, that, level one should be responsible. And I want to repeat myself, San Juan has not paid anything. We've paid it out of our pocket. So San Juan has not, that never happened. So we've carried an extra $3 million umbrella on top of our regular insurance that we have, that the state requires, plus some for the city of San Juan and our other clients, since that's going to be said, through him as well.
So what we're working with Parsec is, what the city attorney said is, $3 million is overkill. They were under the assumption that they were taking people in custody and so forth. So now we're discussing with Parsec. The reality is they're not doing that. Their services are limited to observe and notify and report. And deter.
Make sure that's the first thing.
Command presence, as I like to say. So that's, so what I'm asking for here is to enter into a new contract. And the new contract does have has a 75 cents per hour increase, as well as I'm asking for the ability to increase this as needed during peak hours to not to exceed $99K per year.
Okay. Any questions?
JT, I'm going to nail you again. Post-certified, they can write tickets?
We can write tickets. We've said that from the day one.
Well, then why in your report?
Not traffic tickets.
Well, that's what I want.
Security.
You got to have a post-certified guy to do that, right?
You can't, let me be very specific. Our officers that work for a private security company, whether they're post-certified or not, cannot do traffic stops and they cannot write tickets, moving violations. We can write tickets to park cars in the general community, but we cannot do traffic violations. We'll get in a lot of trouble for that.
Okay.
I wish I could help you, Tony.
Yeah, I know, I get tired of reading the report and 6 guys ran the stop sign at Perry Street,
Well, that was one of the things we told you guys would do. We also, the sheriff's department also gets a copy of our report. So we are covering our bases for the city of San Juan and for us to make sure that, it's going down the chain of command. In fact, earlier tonight, me and Eric were talking a little bit about that, Captain Taylor, about a little bit about how we can help out and do that. And me and Michelle also talked about that the other day. Maybe it is, pulling out a video camera. We already have them in the car that we're on a person, but maybe having a video camera, which you guys are going to make fun of me right now when I do this, but having them on the shoulder and, and being able to do the line of sight of videotaping the person's coming down the road and turn it over to the sheriff's department and make sure they know that, hey, these guys are violating. Here's the license plate, there's the driver. It's just trying to deter as much as we can. I even make a recommendation that, they park a sheriff car at different locations throughout the day or the weekend or whatever they do, and, that would cause a deterrent as well. Unfortunately, Tony, my hands are tied right now, I'm so sorry,
Well, they parked the sheriff's car over my house, scared the hell out of me.
No, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't mean to be beating on you, but it's a sore point with me that, and I would be willing to bet you that 90% of those people that run that stop sign do it over and over. They do it every night.
Yeah, I can probably guarantee that your facts are pretty genuine, accepted.
It's like the 18-wheeler that came by my house today. He does that every week. He cannot find the way from 156 to True Leaf without going through town.
I understand.
And
I will say this, we are flagging them down and asking them to back up and go out of the city when we see them. Unfortunately, there's some very touchy gray and black and white areas that we have to follow to not get in trouble for false imprisonment and stuff, but we are asking them to turn around and do our due diligence. Just real quick, what I'm seeing, Tony, too, and I will let you guys know, is that I'm seeing a high volume of the homeless community here in San Juan.
Really?
Yes. And I want to point that out to all of you, is that I've in the last couple of weeks that I've actually had to be out in the field working. we've come across a lot of homeless folks living in their cars. And, I'm a human being just like you guys are, and I have compassion, but you guys need to come up with some kind of idea of what you want us to do and how you want us to further our action, because we are getting a hold of the sheriff's department, who we've had a great working relationship with, that we see and we flag them down, and we let them know that these folks are hanging out here and there. But, a 70-year-old lady in a vehicle is kind of, it's kind of saddening. Yeah. And it's just, it's cold outside. I'm in a nice warm patrol car, and I feel for these folks. So it's up to your determination of what you guys want to do. Michelle and, the council, but I will say we're seeing a lot of high volume of homeless.
There is a brand-new homeless shelter on the way to the airport on, I guess it's whatever the road is, in Hollister. It's brand new. Yeah. It's got like 40 or 50 beds. It's kind of run by donations and by the county. I don't know what it would take if we can put those people there, but that'd be my first thought. That's what it's designed to do. It's,
And then there's been another couple questions we keep getting asked, and that is, why aren't you guys going into these apartment complexes? Why aren't you going to thing? And the problem with that is, and I want to clarify tonight, is that there's two different entities. We're hired by the city to patrol the streets and to go out and keep watch and make sure nothing gets vandalized or broken into. When you go into a private property, we don't have that signed agreement that says, hey, you're covered. The city's, the apartment and the security have a signed agreement, and they're covered. So I want to make that very clear. We don't go into apartment complexes or anything like that, because we've been asked that a lot from my guys out on the streets and stuff like that. They get asked a lot, hey, why aren't you patrolling here? Well, unfortunately, we can't patrol there. That's private property. It'd be like me patrolling in your backyard, and I don't think you guys want me running through your backyard.
I actually think that's worth me talking to the apartment complex managers to do that, because that's the primary source of some of the issues that I'm getting reported to me. So I'll follow up on that one.
I think you're doing a great job, and I've been very happy with you. Are there homeless outside of cars, or are they all in cars?
No, they're in cars, and mostly are on, I can never say the name of the street. McAleeney?
McCallamy.
Thank you very
People
much.
on this council
I don't
can
need to say
say it.
anything, you guys summed it up, but it's mostly... But they're parked on the side of the road there, on McCallamy, across from the apartments there. So, they're in cars.
Okay.
But I have compassion for people, so it just...
I couldn't believe it the other day at the cemetery. I pulled up there about 9 o'clock in the morning by the storage, or where our equipment is. There was a woman sleeping on the ground there. I mean, it was cold.
Yeah.
And then, I asked her what, somebody had dropped her off, how the hell she got all the way back there. So I called the sheriff, and I gave her 20 bucks. And by the time I turned around, she was gone.
So all I gotta do is sleep in the cemetery and you get 20
I'll
bucks?
give him 20 bucks.
We got it.
I'll be there tomorrow morning.
You had something. All right.
If you want a Starbucks coffee cup right there.
That's right. Okay. I had a couple of things. So the agenda item says that there's a resolution, but we don't have a resolution. Do we need a resolution, or are we just authorizing the city manager to conclude a contract?
To sign the contract up to 99K.
So I think you need a minute order to authorize the city manager to sign the contract if there's no resolution attached. You can do it by minute order.
I wanted to clarify the language. That was number one. Number two, I'm totally in favor. You guys have done a phenomenal job. I'd like to remind people where we were before you guys came online. We were routinely experiencing multiple break-ins downtown. It was becoming every few months there would be a round of break-ins downtown, and knock on wood, we have not seen that repeated in the time you've been, in the times that you guys have been on-site patrolling. That has not been repeated.
Can you do that again?
I will knock on wood again. So, that was a huge issue in town. I would say it was probably had surpassed water as the number one issue for a period at that point. And now it's just not on the radar, which is fantastic. I don't think it's public knowledge, but I know that you guys probably saved someone's life, interceded in what would have likely been a murder just by your presence. And I think you guys have just done a phenomenal job.
Well,
and so I appreciate you. Thank you.
So we appreciate you more than you guys know. But I will say this, my wife is the business owner. I want to put that out there too. I work for the boss. So, but I'm only as great as my men. And my men and women are awesome. I will stand in line with them and fight with them in battle any day of the week. And, having a strong sheriff's department like we do, I know they don't get the credit as much as they do, but, those guys take care of us. And I will say Darren and Eric and all those guys, they really do. They come through for us in times of need. And I'm very proud of my men and women too, and it's been a phenomenal experience for us. So I thank you guys as well, each and every one of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you don't need me anymore, I'd like to sit back down.
Yeah. Any public comment on this?
Rachel Ponce?
I, like Tony, I'm sad to hear that they aren't able to issue tickets, because that's what I was going to request that you add to the contract. I think that the flexible hours is a really good idea, and I don't know if that would help with since they can't give out moving traffic tickets, but just to have them around to where people are speeding, and especially you heard Jolene's observation of the ambulance. I've mentioned to you guys several times about the fire engines parking illegally, and if the level 1 can have those flexible hours and maybe, mention to the firemen, you guys aren't at a fire, don't park here. That
They're getting
might help.
coffee at Vertigo.
And as far as like the homeless thing, I know that every once in a while I see vehicles parked overnight at the soccer fields, and the district finally got the sheriff to put a no overnight parking, but there seems to be this motor home that parks there quite a bit, and maybe if, level 1 can mention it to them, or I don't know what they can do, but I think that that's a dangerous thing to start happening, these vehicles being there overnight, and especially where it's around where kids are. You don't want that happening.
I see affirmative nodding in the back of the room, so I think that's...
Yeah, and in reading their report, level 1's report, they see all kinds of speeders and all kinds of people, not stopping at the stop sign, and I wish that there was some way that you guys could give them more authority to handle that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Do we have any other cards?
No.
Anyone else? Right, that public hearing is closed. We need a motion.
What did you call it?
Minute order.
A minute order. So we moved to pass a minute order?
It just means a verbal resolution.
Okay. What?
It's a verbal resolution.
Then we authorize the city manager to negotiate the contract.
So I move that we pass a minute order authorizing the city manager to enter into negotiations and to execute a contract with Level 1 Private Security not to exceed $100,000.
Second, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Now, San Juan Road.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Jason. Michelle? See you, man. Thank you very much.
You running? For office.
JT, one thing. Contrary to whatever anybody else out in public says, we appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you very much.
We very much do. All right.
Now, where did that road thing go?
Sam, I couldn't find it.
6E.
Uh-oh. You got the road thing? So, what I'm asking for is approval to enter into a reimbursement agreement with Eden Bridge.
This was in 4E, right?
This,
No,
I had
it
it
was an
separate.
additional item.
Yeah, and I can't,
Tony,
6E.
this is what it looks like.
It's a handout.
It was on your paper here, when you got here.
I don't know what I did with mine either. Such as it is.
They get lost. Here you go. They get lost.
We got an extra. There you go.
You can certainly borrow mine.
Michelle, tell us what a table is there.
The speed table as defined here is the same as what's at the airport in San Jose.
San Jose Airport.
Oh, the drop box?
Yeah, you go up and you go over and you go down.
I think that's a great,
Whatever it takes to slow them down. Because those dummies get off at the Alameda, go, they pass like 10 cars, and then turn left on Michigan Union Road and cut in front of you.
Yeah.
What did that save you?
It saves you a lot. It's probably 10 minutes. Because that traffic coming in and funnels into one lane.
That's ridiculous.
And so what you got is 3 lanes funneling in.
I don't want a speed table, I want something that'll break that.
Well, that's the problem.
Gotta be careful with that.
That's why we have to fix the roads, because then we'll get sued, yeah. So this road is a disaster, as you know. And the developers and I worked out an agreement that they would pay, and Ed actually did most of this work. They would pay 2/3, city would pay 1/3. I added the 2 tables because I am very concerned about the safety of people out there and the way that this is happening, and I'm witnessing it myself, being a resident in the community, and so I'm asking for approval to enter into this reimbursement. They pay $240, we pay $120, and we would get the full road paved between the Alameda all the way to the end of their development, which is right before Mission Farms. And we'd have 2 speed bumps, one at the beginning of the development and one at the edge where the new well is. And that's really it. They're going to do 12 inches of gravel pack and then 4 inches of asphalt.
You got to tear the whole road out.
They could tear the whole road out. We thought, we looked into doing just a top slurry, not even slurry, thicker top, and just put it on top. We couldn't do it, we just based on the materials that are there, the condition of the road, because they had done some excavation with the new well, as well as putting the curbs in. It is not the recommendation. That's why the urgent meeting this week, because we were trying to go cheaper, and we came back with the city engineer and them and said, no, this is the way to go. We got to go with a really sturdy road out there.
You got to rebuild the road. There's no base under it.
No.
Who's the paving contractor?
It's Eden Bridge, whoever they use. Yeah, so they're gonna lead the project, and we're gonna reimburse them. And the cost per square foot is $6 a square foot at this rate. That's a long stretch of road, and that is a great price.
Is it?
Just so you know, it's not grand well.
The city engineer, when we did our estimates, for example, in the capital plan, he was giving me between $25 and $30 a square foot for that depth of a road. So, yeah, we're getting a very good deal. So that's why I said, I got to get this done. I want to get that road done ASAP, I put it as an emergency agenda adder.
Sounds like a no-brainer.
Okay.
So can, is there,
Correct. If they want an agreement, you want to...
wait.
First I gotta have him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I tried to get through, but you called me on it.
Usually for a reimbursement agreement, look at escrow.
That's what I said, reimbursement agreement.
Your discussion going on, you can't hear that.
Oh, the city attorney's asking me if this is a reimbursement agreement or if they want a check issued. And it's a reimbursement agreement is what we were discussing with them.
Well, I was just clarifying, if we need to do an agreement, then you're going to need to authorize the city manager to sign the reimbursement agreement. So, if you need an agreement, if it's just you might as well just go ahead and do it. I just don't want you to have to come back next month to do this again without the authorization to sign the
Well, I
agreement.
wanted to ask first if we could have a bike lane added to the road. That's a major thoroughfare, and we need a bike lane on each side, and about an extra 2 feet
Good
on the
idea.
shoulder.
That's actually a really good idea. I'd have to come back, maybe,
I know, it's gonna add cost, I know.
I would have to come back.
It's striping, it's not a bike lane. I mean,
It's just
it doesn't-
striping.
Now, for a good bike lane, you need an extra 2 feet hanging out the edge of the road.
Well, yeah, the curb gutter's already in,
Okay.
that's a done deal. That is,
Well, on the other side,
Yeah, on the
okay.
other side.
Okay, whatever we can do to make it better, like, for the cyclists.
It's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
I agree.
Okay.
I think, yes.
I'll come back if I need a change order, or I'll just notify you guys.
So can I ask, are you planning on reimbursing them on their impact fees? I don't know how much
I didn't go that far, Tony.
I just found out that this you gotta be kind of tricky using those impact fees.
That didn't come up in our discussion. No, we didn't, there was nothing about impact fees in the discussion.
I would think it wouldn't be too tricky because the road goes directly to them and stops at the edge of their property, and it is used for their development, so it's kind of, and we're paying a third of it, so.
You know, you gotta be really careful with
It's directly related to their development.
Didn't you talk in here about using money that had already been...
Yes, our budget, we have our budget.
It's already
gas tax.
budgeted.
It's budgeted.
So Tony, it's not a reimbursement out of impact fees? It has nothing to do with the impact fees?
Yeah, we had, 260,000 set aside to do this type of work, and we're gonna use 120 here.
Okay, great.
And in fact, there's enough money to do a bike lane, so you may just authorize, well, I know for sure this gets us a road, 120.
It says 130. Oh, it says 120 in one place and 130 in the other.
It's 120.
It's 120, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Public comment on this? I don't see any public comments, so we're gonna close that section and back to the board for a motion.
John, why don't you make the motion, you can include that.
Okay, thank you. I move that we authorize the city manager to enter into negotiations for the 2/3 or 1/3 of the road and a possible bike lane on San Juan Hollister Road.
Second. A reimbursement agreement?
Reimbursement agreement, thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. That's 5-0.
Can I ask one quick question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Is there such a
How
thing
much
as
do the cables cost?
The cables. The
Speed
PG&E?
tables.
Oh, the tables, 8,000, I believe, each. So it's actually in the capital plan too. I used their estimates from the capital plan for the
I'm just
tables.
thinking if I can get my wife to pay half of one in front of me.
There's speed tables in here. There's 8 speed tables in the capital
You
plan.
can't go and get fast enough when you get to your house.
I might go.
Rachel, you want to split
8,000
one?
each. 8,000 each.
Yes.
Number 7, discussion item A, location of electric vehicle charging stations in the city.
Has the First of all, have you had extensive conversations with PG&E yet on locating them? Okay. Because that is going to affect it. PG&E will have to decide if they can get power to that location.
Why isn't that the driver on it?
Probably is. But I like Tony's recommendation he gave, was it the budget meeting or the last one? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
McCollum Street.
McCollum Street. Anyway,
whatever that street is.
We have one on McCollum.
So,
No, between second and
third, a whole row of them.
where we put that angle parking in.
So what's happening is the PUC has $75 million to disperse to cities to install a series, not just a one-off, of electric car chargers. So you can build up infrastructure throughout the state for electric cars.
Well, why don't we do this? If the driver is where PG&E can put electricity to charge the stations, why don't we first hear from PG&E what our options are, and then we'll choose amongst the options?
That's what I just asked.
Yeah.
She hasn't had the conversation.
Yeah, so why don't we continue it until we hear PG&E? Right? Because otherwise we'll spend 20 minutes talking about these great places, and PG says, well, you can't do that, and then we've wasted 20 minutes. So. Right?
God forbid we waste time.
Okay.
But I like the McCollum thing with the angle park.
So we're going to table this then?
Continue it.
Continue.
To May?
Okay.
Do we have any public comment on it? I think we might have.
Why would we have public comment before we know what our options are? No, we're not going to. We're going to go to number 8, which is comments from the city council.
None.
John, do you have a comment? Tony, do you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay, so Saturday the 21st here in town is going to be a very busy day. The Rosa's House is having their walking tour ribbon cutting and grand opening ceremony, which is going to increase tourism to the town. It's where, if you've seen on 3rd Street and at the Mission and many other historical places in town, they have these commemorative plaques with a QR code in the bottom. So what that does is, Shipper has designed a website. You take a picture of the QR code with your camera, like that, and it takes you directly to the web page on the camera. It tells you the entire history of what's known about that location. So I'm going to be Master of Ceremonies. Anthony Botello's going to be the ribbon cutter and give a speech, and it's going to be a good time. We're also having a kite, completely separate. There's a free giveaway of compost at the city yard and Earth Day celebration, and there's also a kite flying contest all on that day, Saturday. Busy day in San Juan.
And the flower sale.
And thank you. I forgot. Where is the flower sale?
Windmill?
Yeah, in the lab in front of the tennis courts.
Okay.
Got it.
In front of Wendy's?
The preschool. School lot, not across the street.
That dirt lot,
Tony, do you have a comment?
I did, but I forgot what it was now, so.
Thank you. I have no comment. Dan doesn't have a comment.
No, sir.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
No, city
Oh,
manager.
I'm sorry.
Do you have a comment?
I do not.
Deborah, do you have a comment?
No, I do not.
All right, now we
Now
do.
on motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.